Our church has had a long-standing tradition of honoring Black History Month with a special Sunday service each year. As a leader in our congregation and in the wider community, Sister Caron Crump has been our go-to person for inviting guests and helping plan our services. Sister Caron, would you please come forward to introduce our guests today?
Good morning, Unity family. Good morning, Reverend Mary. I'm so happy and grateful to be able to use the platform of the Unity Church and the Unity service to help celebrate Black History Month. And so with that being said, I have reached in the community and invited two very highly esteemed Elder Griot and the drummer and dancers to really bless us with healing energy of music and healing energy of word. So there are many ways to learn about influential Black culture and individuals, but this is my way to give back to Unity Church. So with that being said, first we'll do a musical rendition with the group Neeyah, and they are all highly master drummers, so we're going to be very healed and centered with the drumming. And with our dancer, Neeyah Hassan. She's been a dancer in the community for many, many years, ever since she was little. Her mother, she has a family legacy. She's traveled all around the country. And then after the dancing and drumming, we will have a speaker, Taliba Asante. She is the griot of our community. She's been part of Juneteenth since 1982. She was vice president. She currently serves on the board. Taliba Asante is a member of ASCAT organization. That's a worldwide organization. The Association for the Study of Classical African Civilization is a very esteemed organization, and just all around in the community to just help us keep us aware of our Black history and culture. So with that being said, the drummers will come up and do what they're going to do for us, and then Sister Taliba. Thank you so much.
Taliba Asante. I greet you in Tree, words of the Akan people of Ghana, West Africa. I welcome you to my truths regarding Black history and how it relates to today's message in the Daily Word. Part of it has been, the message has been read already, but it's a part of my truth that I'm going to give. So I'm going to read a segment of that has already been read, if you bear with me. I aspire to help create a world that works for all. Then it goes on so forth and ends in Ephesians 4:11 and 12. The gifts he gave were to equip the saints for the work of ministry, for building up the body of Christ. Ashe. Ashe. An African proverb states that we can only see as far forward as we can remember back. Black history did not begin on the shores of North America or in the Caribbean. Before capture, Africans lived in relative peace within a family unit, with each member sharing responsibility for the survival of that unit. We had land, we had a language, and we had a culture. We were taught the ways of harmony and balance. I will now read a segment from Meditations of the Heart by Harold Thurman. Give me the listening ear. Give me the listening ear. I seek the day the ear will not shrink from the word that corrects and admonishes, the word that holds up before me the image of myself that causes me to pause and reconsider, the word that challenges me to deeper consecration and higher resolve, the word that lays bare needs that make my own days uneasy, that seizes upon every good, decent impulse of my nature, channeling it into paths of healing in the lives of others. Give me the listening ear. I seek this day the disciplined mind, the disciplined heart, the disciplined life that makes my ear the focus of attention through which I may become mindful of expressions of life foreign to my own. I seek the stimulations that lift me out of old ruts and established habits which keep me conscious of myself, my needs, my personal interests. Give me this day the eye that is willing to see the meaning of the ordinary, the familiar, the commonplace, the eye that is willing to see my own faults for what they are, the eye that is willing to see the likable qualities in those I may not like, the mistake in which I thought was correct, the strength in what I had labeled as weakness. Give me the eye that is willing to see that thou hast left thyself without a witness in every living thing, thus to walk with reverence and sensitiveness through all the days of my life. Give me the listening ear, the eye that is willing to see. Ashe. Can you imagine men, women, and children being captured and separated from their families? Can you imagine being chained and shackled with chains and sticks around your neck to keep you from escaping? Do you remember seeing your homes and villages burnt to the ground and people running for their lives? Do you remember hearing the drums warning you of this disorder? Do you remember being marched from the rising to the setting of the sun to some unknown place? Can you imagine being held in dungeons with little or no ventilation, where you were packed like hermit goats? Do you remember being crowded in the deep and musty, the damp and musty dungeons that you could hardly sit or move? Do you remember seeing bodies deteriorating before your very eyes? Do you remember the terrible smells? Can you imagine the rancid diseases claiming lives right next to you? Do you remember seeing large vessels through the narrow cracks in the stone walls? Did you later learn that the names of some of those ships were the Hope, the Mary, the Henry of London, the good ship Jesus, the Catherine, and so many more? Do you remember hearing the screams and cries of men, women, and children yearning for their loved ones? Do you remember being separated from other members of your tribe so you could not communicate with them? Do you remember being shuffled below deck into the belly of the boat? Can you imagine being packed on your sides and on your backs and chained to people in rows and lines, with no room, with no regard for human respect or human comfort? Can you imagine not knowing where you were going, but knowing you were not going home? Can you imagine craving freedom and trying to break away by jumping overboard or participating in riots or revolts where you were mainly outnumbered, but still had that effort and desire to be free? Do you remember being attacked by sharks, which had changed its migration patterns to follow the ships with the cargo that they would later feed on? Do you remember? Do you know that the Atlantic Ocean is the world's largest cemetery because it contains the remains of millions of Africans who lost their lives on that migration here to the New World? Upon arrival to the New World, do you remember being given a collective bath containing sand, ash, and limestone? Do you remember being aired, shaved, and polished with palm oil and camphor, and being fattened to command the highest bid? Do you remember? Do you remember the auction block where you were corralled like animals? Do you remember having your eyes, ears, and teeth examined and your whole body propped and probed looking for deformities? Do you remember being branded and given new names? Do you remember being sold to the highest bidder? Do you remember your spirit being broken? Can you imagine working in the fields of violence from sunup to sundown? Can you imagine being whipped, raped, and tortured so badly that scars remained on your backs and in your soul? Can you remember missing your family and missing your home? Men, do you remember feeling powerless, unable to protect and provide for your loved ones? Women and men, do you remember plotting and planning ways to escape to a different and hopefully better place? Do you remember hearing drums and voices warning you that bloodhounds and the bounty hunters were after you? Did you wade in the water? Do you remember the network where black and whites united together to help you seek freedom? Do you remember the slave patrols coming north, recapturing you, and returning you south for re-enslavement? Do you remember? After emancipation, do you remember having some sense of freedom, but yearning to be reunited with your husband, wife, children, mother, father, sister, brother, and other members of your families? Do you remember inventing products and developing services which would make life easier for all people? Can you remember the strange fruits hanging from the trees? Can you imagine digging graves before being executed and then being thrown into those graves? Can you imagine a little girl in Tulsa, Oklahoma, hiding under a table because her home was being ransacked and destroyed just because her father was prosperous? Can you remember being defenseless in Money, Mississippi, where men stormed into your home, abducted your 14-year-old nephew because he allegedly flirted with one of their wives? That 14-year-old was murdered. Can you imagine the mother of this 14-year-old boy demanding that his casket laid open so that the whole world could see how his body had been mutilated and killed with violent actions? Can you remember the domestic terrorism that happened on May 14th, on a Saturday, when people were conducting their normal or routine of going to get groceries on Saturday? Can you imagine people there getting their groceries, someone helping them with their groceries? Can you remember talking to people at the produce department about what vegetables you were going to prepare that day? Can you imagine a 3-year-old boy waiting at home for his father to bring his birthday cake for them to celebrate? Can you imagine? Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you aspire? Will you speak the truth? Do you have the ears that listen? Do you have the eyes that are willing to see? If so, then we can all live in harmonious balance with each other. Ashe. I would like to thank Unity for allowing us to come in and talk and share our truth with you, and hope that this message that was in the daily word inspires all of us to make this world a better place.